Tough questions. What happens when your kids call you out on your sin? This has definitely happened to me more than once. We, as Christian moms, we are instructing our children all the time, as we should be, as the Bible calls us to. And we will tell them things like, don't complain, don't argue, don't use anger, don't lie, don't cheat. I mean, the list goes on. We have to instruct them in these things. But what happens, mom, when your child sees you do the very same thing that you're telling them not to do? What do we do about that? How do we answer the question? And I often get, but mom, you just raised your voice. Mom, you sound like you're stressed out and anxious. Whatever the question might be, the question is geared at you because, you know what? You're in sin. And it's a humbling thing to have children, is it not? It's a wonderful thing that God provides these little minds that are so honest. They just call us out. But how do Christian moms like you and I, how do we respond to it? I think we have a great opportunity in that moment to be humble. The scripture all calls us to be humble, to recognize that we are not perfect. We need God's grace. We need God's help. We need God's strength all the time. And I often am just melted when my children say, but mom, and fill in the blank of whatever it is, them calling me out. If we can respond in humble recognition that we are not perfect and that we need Jesus, this is such a great teaching moment. I often just melt when they say it, when they point it out. Try not to get mad or defensive at them, but just say, you know what, you're right. Mom was getting angry. You could hear it in my voice, and that's not right. That's sin. And I'm sorry about that. Forgive me, please, for raising my voice. Forgive me, please, for having that anxious, stressed out tone and words, whatever it might be. And it's a great time, ladies, to say, but that's why mom needs Jesus just like you need Jesus. You're a sinner, sweet little one, and I'm a sinner, and we need Jesus. If they're little, you can just apologize simply, like you have been teaching them to. Ask for forgiveness and say, mommy needs God's help, doesn't she? Just like you do. I mean, we can make it so simple. And as we get teenagers, we can sit them down and say, look, you're going to see more and more of my sin as we live in this life. And you're going to see that I'm also struggling to honor the Lord, to do what he says, to follow him. And so would you forgive me? Let's move forward. And it's just a great teaching time. I know the questions are hard. I know if you're like me, you might want to be like, how dare you, child, call out my sin, or that's disrespectful. They can do it disrespectfully, unfortunately. But what we want to ultimately do is say, this is a teaching moment where they're paying attention to us. They're watching us. They need to copy and emulate us. And so we can be like, you know what? Let me talk about this. Let me address it head on. Let me take full responsibility for any sin I was involved in, and let me point you to Christ. We can do this, ladies, when we handle those tough questions well.